Hi, loves. Dionysia here. And I wanted to share with you today that I've been thinking a lot recently throughout this experience of campaigning and fundraising for Priestess, a stage production, about the impact that the theater arts have had on my life personally. And I'm imagining that many of you can relate to this, how many times I've been to the theater and had my heart opened wide, or my consciousness expanded, or new thoughts or new ideas come to mind about life, about loving, about the human story, about our tragedies and our triumphs. And I personally love the theater as a medium for expressing that. Um, and then, of course, there's film and how that takes, theater to the whole next level of what film can do around the expression of the human experience. Particularly, I've been thinking quite a lot about The Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. I'm sure many of you know this production and have seen it in some form or another. If you haven't encountered The Vagina Monologues, please, please, please go look them up. It is such a profoundly important piece of theater work around really woman. And one of the things that I so appreciate about what Eve Ensler did with that body of work is that she used that medium to say things that needed to be said, to express things that needed to be explored, things that are often kept, sort of behind closed doors or not spoken about at large. And she did that so well through the humor of the production and the depth of the production and the stories that were written about woman, about what it is to be in woman's experience. And that's been on my mind a lot recently as we've been in rehearsals for Priestess and we've been campaigning and fundraising for the production stages of it. That really is the intention behind this piece of work, is that we get to say some things that need to be said about woman and about our experience, in the ways that we've been, prevented from being part of religion and religious and spiritual pathways as leaders there, ways that we approach spirituality differently from a feminine perspective than from a masculine perspective. In a lot of ways, women have been sort of put in a particular kind of category by the church, by religion, by spirituality, where we don't belong in the leadership roles, we don't belong in the decision-making roles, and we see this in a pervasive way throughout culture and society, right? Just look at government roles, for example, and government decisions that are made. So one of the things that we feel really strongly about through this production is presenting woman as feminine leadership, as in spiritual leadership, not only in how we serve through our temples and our communities and our synagogues, but also in how we live in our day-to-day lives. And I think theater is such a profound tool to be able to use to do that, where we get to be with the audience and we get to express with the audience and feel the audience, and it becomes this feedback loop. I'm sure that many of you, if you have been to theater, have experienced that, what it is to be in the field of energy together that gets created by the performance itself, and how the audience is responding and moving along with the energetic movement of the performance. So I personally love that experience in that medium for being able to express bigger things and to talk about things that often are not talked about in other realms, or that tend to be kept sort of behind closed doors. I've had the question as we've been campaigning and fundraising for Priestess about parts of the video that are about the production, because part of it, the parts that are in the water, if you've seen our production video, please, if you haven't seen the promotional video, go have a look at it, just to look at it as a piece of art. It is really stunningly beautiful. But a part of that is that we're in the mikveh together, women in the mikveh together. And we go in with our clothes on, and then there's a part in the video where we're nude, because we're talking about love and sex and what Priestess is in terms of love and sex. But my point here is that, we've had some questions around using video that presents to the world these sort of rituals that tend to be done in private and in silence, and in the case of this mikvah, behind a closed gate. And there's so much value in having the privacy around those rituals and around the togetherness of women in those rituals, and what we do and what we grow in ourselves and what we learn, and then how that ripples out to our men in our lives, our children, our communities, our families, and how the more that women fill ourselves up in those ways, we affect the world around us for the good. But the question was about, publicizing those kinds of rituals through video. And that's actually part of the point of this production, is that we're wanting to bring to theater what we do in our private rituals and in our private ceremonies that are about feminine spirituality, feminine leadership, about women learning to fill ourselves up so that we're a positive influence to the world around us. And from our perspective, that's so much of what's needed in the world right now, like the chaos that we've been witnessing and being a part of and living through in our times. Part of the antidote to that, the rising answer to that, comes as this big tidal wave of woman, and what woman is when she's in health and balance with, herself, her sisterhood, her larger community, and everyone that involves. In times past, when there have been huge plagues in the world, that one of the things that happened in that is that artists, when they were, uh, alone, home alone, and distancing, and, in lockdown experiences, is they went in and created. And out of all of those times that there have been huge plagues in the world like that, came an artistic renaissance. So literally the Renaissance period came after a huge plague. The last major pandemic happened in the 1920s. And out of that came the Roaring Twenties, right? So the Spanish influenza of 1916, that whole era. And then right after that came this huge expression of freedom and artistic delivery of what the next expression of human evolution would be. So we're here as part of this next movement. Here we are in this plague that we've all been living through, and this pandemic, and what has happened, and what people have been through. And what we did in lockdown was start creating this production. And for us, this expression, this theatrical expression, is about using art, like we've seen people do throughout time, to come out and say, this is the next evolution of humanity. This is the next thing we see as artists and as women and as healers and as medicine women and as priestesses is needed in our world for greater balance, greater harmony, bigger love, bigger wellness on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and how that translates onto a physical level as well. So I've been thinking about all of those things. I wanted to share that with you. Here we are. We've got about 6 days left in our fundraising campaign before it closes up. If you're feeling resonant with this or feeling any sort of stirring around this, then we'd so love it if you'd go and check out the campaign page on Indiegogo. And again, like I said, just for art's sake, look at the promotional video. It's absolutely stunning. Every donation that you make counts and helps us along the way towards our goal. And every donation of $250 or more is tax deductible through our ministry. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to say again, if you've been listening to my videos, that we really do feel like this is a thing where we have you with us and we're taking you with us, and that this is all of us moving into the next level of expression of where humanity is going, and that we can do that together. We appreciate all of your support. We appreciate your emails that we're getting and your responses to our Facebook and Instagram campaigns. It's so fulfilling to feel you with us and to have you with us. We have your names on our altars, praying for you each day as we go through this process. So again, I invite you to go and check out the campaign page and to watch the promotional video, and hoping that our art, our expression, feeds something in you and nurtures something in you. Blessed be.